This Islamic Dad here. If you enjoy this channel, please subscribe. It does help me out a lot. I'm going to do a video today on a topic that I'm actually surprised I had not touched before in the past, and that is with respect to the narcissist and personality test or personality profile test. So I had an incident happen where my covert narcissist ex-girlfriend and I, at the time, were, surprise, surprise, running into some issues with our relationship. And it was decided that we would go see, couples counseling or couples therapy to deal with these issues. And the therapist that we were seeing was a strong believer in the Enneagram test to get a better idea of not only each of our, personalities, so to speak, but also, in doing so, a deeper idea of our weaknesses, our strengths, our core fears, our core hopes, what we looked like when we were psychologically unhealthy, what we looked like when we were psychologically healthy. In that respect, it's a really great tool. And so she had us take the test, and given the questions and the way it is laid out in these, I think it's like a pentagon or circle. The different personality types are basically related to each other left and right. So if you take the test, what your results will typically look like is a pyramid where you have your main personality type, and then to your left and your right you have lower say traits and behaviors that match adjacent personality types. And given the way the test works, you would expect about 100% of the results to look like that for various personalities, but it would always be basically a pyramid where people have their one core personality. So I took mine, and at the time I think I was a 4W5, for what it's worth. And my covert narcissist ex-girlfriend, she took the test at the time, and when she showed us the results, it wasn't a pyramid like that. She actually had basically two spikes, I'll call them, that were not even adjacent. They weren't necessarily diametrically opposed to each other, but they were kind of off on, given the shape of the Enneagram, I would say like maybe 1/3 of the way around. So it was very bizarre. And we were given this book to take the test along with, and reading the chapters, you could read like the different descriptions, and based upon those descriptions you could easily say, oh, this matches how I see the world, or this resonates with my experience. And if I'm remembering correctly, when she read the book and the descriptions, and she said, oh, this one matches with me, or this is what I am, I think it may have even been a third one. Like, it wasn't even the two personalities that she tested, that the results indicated when she took the test. And so again, like, I'm surprised I hadn't done like a video on this in the past, because what it implies to me is that when she took the test, that she kept switching back and forth on answering the questions between her true self and her false self persona. And that she might answer a question from, say, having the mother wound and the, insecure, child that sees threat everywhere, versus the hyper independent, resolute, strong adult, that the, false self portrays itself as. And as far as like the, a third one, I don't even know. That's, all bets are off on that one. I haven't got a clue. But it was kind of jarring. I mean, at least to me, if you understand the way the Enneagram test works, the two results were not even adjacent. I mean, it's very hard to describe. I mean, it would be, say, if I, can use a football term or terms that, may kind of convey this. It would be like if you were, normally you would say like, oh, okay, this person's a running back, but they also can play like, say, tight end or something like that. Those positions kind of need the same type of skill set as far as like athleticism, weight, speed, etc. But what had happened when she took the test is that she, got quarterback and then defensive lineman or something like that. I mean, they were just not even close. So you're just completely scratching your head as to like, what does that mean? Like, what is going on in that person's head that when they're faced with, say, a question, I don't know, just whatever type of question, some psychological related question, that they stop and have to say, okay, okay, am I answering it this way? Or am I answering it this way? And they, maybe the decision happens like that, but literally they are choosing one or the other. Whereas normal people are just like, okay, this is what I want, this is what I want, this is what I'm afraid of, this is what I'm afraid of. This is, my goals, my values and stuff like that. Whereas the narcissist, because of the split between the real self and the false self, is like that. And that given a psychological question about, say, what are you afraid of? They might pick one or the other. What would be your dream that would make you feel fulfilled? It might switch back and forth. And I thought that was fascinating because I know that the general perspective of narcissist is that when they go out into the world and they, experience it and, act upon it, that they are 100% in the false self. That they put, in the morning they wake up, they put on the mask, and then they are the mask, the persona, the false self all day long, and then they go to sleep. And what the results of my, ex-girlfriend's, the covert narcissist results are, is that's not actually true, and that it's actually crazier than that. And that to some extent during, say, like a day, normal day, given different situations and maybe different moods, temperaments, however they're feeling, they might switch back and forth as far as, oh, I want this. No, I want this. Or, this is what I am afraid of. No, actually, this is what I'm afraid of. And so while I never had my ex-wife, the malignant narcissist, take this test, this was something that I experienced actually much, much more personally one-on-one with her after her, midlife crisis and stuff, where she would, I guess the term is split, where, I guess borderline people with borderline personality do this, where she would split personalities within a matter of seconds. I mean, it was freaky. And so she would go from being hyper confrontational, hyper determined, hyper self-assured, hyper aggressive, maybe even screaming, yelling, breaking things, and then switch back to just collapsing on the floor, crying, saying, that she's a terrible mother and that, she's a horrible person, and, just, going on, please forgive me, all this type of stuff. And you're like, oh, okay, I'm sorry you're going through that. And then kaboom, literally, like, you could be practically hugging her, rubbing her hair, wiping the tears from her face, saying, it's okay, it's okay. And she would switch back to hyper-aggression, screaming, pushing you off and insulting you. And, at the time, I mean, obviously it's crazy. I mean, it's just, I don't know how else to describe it. It's crazy behavior. But, it also matches what I'm discussing in the video, where maybe at that time, she was so new to kind of dealing with the mask persona, the false self, that she was switching, back and forth, or splitting, as some people call it. And needless to say, it was a nightmare for me. It was a nightmare for my children, because at any given time, we didn't know who we were going to get. And even when we were dealing with them one-on-one, we didn't know how long they were going to stay that way. They might switch halfway through a conversation, and before the conversation ends, they might switch back. And so, just pure insanity. So, I don't know if you would ever be in a situation if you still have a narcissist in your life, but maybe find a way to give them, and say, like, an Enneagram test. I don't think MBTI would work as well for seeing the split. It doesn't work that way. But, give them an Enneagram test, for whatever reason, come up with an excuse, and see the results, and see if, instead of a normal pyramid where there's a distinct, strong, single personality, if it's actually split and they have two spikes that may almost look like they're contradictory to each other, and diametrically opposed. So I just wanted to do this video because, again, this is something that I do believe that there's something here, and I am kind of surprised that I haven't seen any other videos from a lot of the other people studying narcissism that I respect, or articles that have touched on this. So hopefully this has been, helpful.